Welcome back to Legends in the Making. My name is Erin Sarles Bowers, and I am your host. And today we are going to dive into a topic that I am so excited about. It's about how we kind of have a cultural narrative that today's generation is too soft. And I really want to reframe that conversation around emotional, spiritual, and structural starvation, not weakness. So I cannot wait to dive into this topic today. And there's a lot of lies, I think, going around that this generation is too soft to lead, too emotional to carry pressure, too fragile to handle the weight of real life. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to call BS on that. They're not soft. They're starving. They're starving for structure. They're starving for clarity. They're starving for adults who lead instead of enabling them. So we're going to rip the lid off the cultural lie that has been crippling our athletes, our leaders, and even our kids. This one today is for parents, the founders, the culture shifters, and anyone who believes standards still matter. So let's go. So, really, I want to start with this myth of softness. You're not weak. They're not weak. Our kids aren't weak. They are underfed. We, as a parent, I think even I have fallen into this trap where it's like you almost coddle them. We've created this society where it's like we've become so overprotected that we don't allow them to face hardships, the truths of life, and to have to work through those. Like we helicopter parent and hover over them and never let them leave. Like we have created, I think, a generation of children because we don't want to be hard on them that doesn't have the standards, the values, the expectations of how to get through life. And, there's a book I just read, I believe it's The Coddling of America. And it really talks about this, how when we become soft and think that making life not challenging for our children, we're actually not doing them any favors. Part of life is failure. Part of life is learning the lessons when things aren't going our way versus like overprotecting them and thinking that they can't handle it. I talk about this a lot on my channel, in the work that I do, but every person is created naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. They have all the tools and skills to be a high functioning individual. And we have to remember that. They're not lacking, they're not weak, they're not unable to survive. They can survive. They were designed to survive. Do we have enough emotional, spiritual, and mental well-being for them to be able to thrive? When I think about things that happened in my life, sometimes I'm like, where did I get that from? I'm in the middle of writing a book right now, which I'm super excited about. It's going to be called Remembering You. And in this book, it's thinking back to moments in my childhood, like, where did I form that identity, or where did I form that work ethic, or where did that drive come from? And sometimes I have a hard time pinpointing exactly where that stemmed from. And some of that, I think, comes from my parents, from the standard and expectations that they held for me. And when I was being raised, we didn't bend, they didn't bend the rules to make it easier on me. We were expected to uphold what we needed to uphold as part of being a part of the family, whether that was mowing the grass, dusting, vacuuming, you name it, but nowadays more and more kids have less and less and less responsibilities, things that don't make them have discipline, consistency, and integrity in what they're doing. And when we don't have structure, when we don't have expectations, what do we get? We get depression, we get apathy, we get inconsistency. Not because they're lazy, but because we haven't shown them how to live their life with purpose. What gets you up every day? What gets you motivated? How do you show up for everybody else around you? It's like, school's so hard. I mean, I hear my kids say that, and sometimes I look at them like, what do you even do in school? Like, what are you even doing in school? This doesn't seem overly challenging. All of it's based on computers. Nothing is based on lecture, taking notes, interacting. So it's like we're not making our kids interface and live the way that human beings are meant to live. We also have created softness and the ability to interact and have conversation with people. They're so hidden behind screens and text messages and social media apps. It's like, could you pick up the phone and have a call with somebody? I look at my kids and my daughter, more so than my son, I would really question that. And it's like being able to articulate yourself, being able to have a conversation with somebody, those are invaluable skills. And our kids are not being taught how to have those. Because if I don't like my teacher, I will just run to mom and dad and they'll handle it. Or whatever the case might be. Or if it's in sports, like if something's going wrong with the coach, it's like, well, are you having conversations with your coach? Are you articulating who you are, what you want, who you want to be? You can't expect to reap the benefits if you're not willing to articulate what you want. I think about one kid I was having a conversation with this last month. Great kid, a ton of talent. And he looked at me and says, I want to be great, but no one has ever told me how to handle the pressure. They just keep telling me to rest or be kind to myself. And rest and recovery is absolutely a part of it. But when I think about greatness, when you think about who's great, I think about a Michael Jordan. Do you think he was like, I better rest, I better take a day off? Or is it, I better get to the gym and I better shoot my 500 shots. I better have the best practice of my life. I better run harder than anybody else out there. Like, those aren't bad things. Those are things that show you your potential. Those are things that reflect your capabilities. Those are things that God is calling you to do. We've created this very, very soft culture by like, oh, don't overwork or take the day off or that's too much. And it's like, no, part of greatness is doing the work. Part of greatness is showing up every day. Part of greatness is being so disciplined in your daily routine that you outwork everybody. It's about having the character and an integrity to follow through on what your standards are. I often ask my kids, is what you just did reflect how exceptional you are as a human being? The answer is yes. Hey, I'm freaking proud of you. If you internalize and look at that question and go, yeah, I probably wasn't really putting in a lot of effort, there's an opportunity to step up and really go, okay, what does that look like? Versus, I think maybe how I was parented, does that reflect you? It was kind of like, you better not do it because you didn't want to have the wrath of your parents, because there was just that standard and expectation more external to you. Where I think we have an opportunity is to make it more intrinsic within them in how we lead and how we parent, where it's not an external force. It's not the people pleasing energy, but it's them really analyzing, does this reflect my greatness as a human being? And what I see where this generation is malnourished is in 5 key areas. Structures that anchor but don't suffocate. How do you create predictable discipline systems? Not chaos disguised as freedom. Like, I'm not going to give you any structure because that seems more, free, more kind, more loving, to let you kind of do whatever you want, versus like, what's the standard you want for yourself? And if that's the standard you want for yourself, then you have to have a discipline system in order to achieve that. You also have to have leadership that holds the line. Not parenting from guilt, not coaching from fear or cancel culture, like really going, what is right? Am I grounded in the integrity and truth of who I am? Am I coming from a loving place because I want what's best for them? And I'm willing to tell them the hard truths, not because they're going to react poorly, but because it's the right thing to do. That leads into my third area that I think is malnourished, is truth that doesn't flinch. We are starting to create narratives that are not truthful. There is truth. And we have to be able to have the conversations about truth. We have to be truthful. They can handle it. If we're not being truthful, we're not serving. We're not serving our kids. We're not serving others around us. Honesty, truthfulness, authenticity of who we are, those are the most loving acts that you can give to another human being. But are we willing to do it, and to do it in a loving, respectful way that helps them see the greatness of who they are? Not because I'm pissed off and I want to yell and scream. That style of coaching too, I think, is out. Knowing what people's potential are and coaching them to that is different than I'm pissed off because you didn't do it. They're not doing it because they want to piss you off. They're a human being and they made a mistake. How do you reframe that to go, is that your best? Was that your best? Most people will be able to tell you that wasn't my best. And they may even ask you, what could I do to get better? Or here's what I think I need to work on in order to get better. What a great space to lead and coach from if that's what you're doing. The other area where we're malnourished is identity-based affirmations. Not just performance feedback. Speak to who they are, not just what they do. Who are they? We have to see them for the wholeness of the person that they are, for the character, for the integrity of who they are. That matters more than just the performance out on the field. How are you handling every ounce of adversity that's being thrown your way? Because you will be. Whether it's in sports and in a game and in any moment, whether it's in life and business and leadership, you will always be thrown stuff. Who are you in those moments? How do you respond in those moments? Because that's what counts. That's also going to anchor you in to be able to handle all of that. Presence, not performance. They don't need another motivational reel. We get a lot of that out there. Woo, 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 woo. We need leaders that are modeling consistency, that are modeling the behaviors, that are modeling the day in, day out, moment by moment, real life actions that you need to take in order to really be successful. Getting somebody hyped up, that's a feeling. I've talked about on that on one of my last podcasts. Motivation is an emotion. We can't live off our emotions. We have to live off our capability to be able to consistently act. And you do that through acquiring disciplined routines. And the more disciplined you become, the more consistent you become, the more or less reactionary you are to any situation. So when I work with parents inside Blueprint to Blue Chip, the first thing I tell them is not that you're overbearing, you're the blueprint. You're the map of what they're watching. They're watching you and how you wake up and what you say. And do you mean what you say? Do you flinch when it gets uncomfortable? Your kids are watching you. And that's the beauty of Blueprint to Blue Chip is this is an family development system. It's not just designed for the athlete. It's designed for the entire ecosystem around that athlete. Guess what? As parents, my greatest teachers and some of my greatest lessons have come from my children because I know that as their mom, what they're doing is watching and observing me. And how I handle stuff is how they're going to embody stuff. So we need more habits. We don't need any more hype. We don't need to get hyped up. They should be hyped up. How do you consistently deliver the hype? How do you consistently deliver who you are? How do you not be an emotional roller coaster, but be consistent in who you are? So how do we fix this? How do we really start to make the shift from being soft to having incredible standards, to watching this generation step into their greatness and their capabilities because we're asking them to, because we see what they're capable of doing? So how do you have structure? What are your family routines? What are your daily expectations for yourself, for everybody in your family, for people at work? Whomever is listening, what are your daily expectations? What are your routines for yourself and everybody else? And what are your personal non-negotiables? What are things that just cannot be negotiated? If truth is a non-negotiable, then you should expect everybody around you to be honest. You can't then compromise on it because then it's not a non-negotiable. You're allowing somebody to exist in your space that isn't truthful. How do we raise the standards in public and in private? How do you set consequences? How do you not make excuses? And how do you set standards that earn success? You've also got to build emotional stamina through conversations. I know my kids, this was a big one. It's like we get to stay even keeled and I might be asking you some hard questions, or I might be sitting here in silence with you, but I'm not going to rescue you and we're not going to have some emotional blow up so that we can then run away from the problem. That's also a deflection tactic. When people get super upset because they don't want to look at it, that's a problem. That's a problem. We've got to fix that. We've got to ask tough questions. We got to be able to hold silence and teach our kids that silence is okay. You don't have to fill everything up and that you don't have to rescue them and from the discomfort. And being able to sit in and have a emotionally evolved conversation is a skill our teens, young adults need to learn. How do you model alignment as a parent and as a leader? How do you show up when you don't feel like? How do you execute when no one's watching? How do you speak the truth when it costs you? So when I think about where our society's at and where it needs to go, this is my life's work and my life's calling. And that's why I've built two free 5-day one-on-one experiences to work with me, either as a family in a 5-day reset set called Raising Exceptional, or for you leaders at work, how do you reset your clarity and really start leading from a place where you're aligned? They don't need more talk. People need framework of how to be able to go do this. So again, I just want to invite parents for my work for Blueprint to Blue Chip. If you're tired of watching your kid float through life with no real anchor, you're tired of being told you're too intense or that boys will be boys, you're who I built this for. So join us. Next week, I'm going to be doing a micro event, and I cannot wait to have you there. There will be lots more details to come in the coming days. It's free, and I'd love to have you join. You can DM me the word reset, and I will include the link in the show notes. And if you are a founder, a coach, a leader who's killing it on the outside, but drowning on the inside, you're not broken, you're misaligned. So next Thursday, I'll be doing the Clarity Reset, where you can come, connect with me, and we can start to get you on the path of alignment so that you can feel successful in everything that you do. We don't need more content. We don't need more hacks. We need to feed the future with presence, with patterns, and with truth. Because if we don't, culture will. And what it feeds them won't make them fulfilled. It will make them numb. Share this episode with someone who's willing to rebuild the standard. A father, a mother, a founder, a coach, a leader. You're not soft. We're not soft. We're hungry. You're hungry. And you were born to lead. So until next time, I'm Erin, and this is Legends in the Making.